the D.C. courtroom, but Trump appealed the D.C. circuit to the D.C. circuit, and we just got a ruling back on that, where the judge is basically splitting that. Then we're going to see what Mr. Mustache Man has to say about this. We know him. John Bolton was inside Jen Psaki on MSNBC, and he was saying that Trump and his tactics are even worse than Nixon, which, whatever that means. And
Nixon didn't even know they were doing Watergate.
Trump could actually start shooting people in his cabinet, or like the vice president could just shoot the president one day and then pardon himself. It's wild, man. They're going into absolute bizarro land. It's a little bit crazy. We'll see if we can keep it together as we go through some of this madness. But as you can see,
he got fucked up because he covered it up.
A lot to get to today. We're excited you are here with us. We've got 3 segments to attend to. We've got Jack Smith, and we've got a lot of stuff here. Some readings, some Supreme Court petitions, objections. It's good stuff. This morning we had a great stream with our members. We talked about all the day's affairs. We talked about some of the weekend's affairs. There's some good stuff that we chatted about. We're working on building another little project over there that we'll be sharing soon. But we're having some fun over there discussing some of that as well. Today, before we get into the meat and potatoes on the show, we have to pause and say thank you to our friends over at PIA for sponsoring the show. And because they're just a pretty dang great company with great VPN services. Is our sponsor. It's important to stay protected on the internet, my friends, and Private Internet Access will help you do that. Private Internet Access is a VPN service that creates an encrypted tunnel for you when you browse the web so that people on the same network as you can't snoop in and see what you're doing. And that's awesome. But what I also love about a VPN is that it allows you to change your IP address to one of over 90 countries around the world. This lets you get past geographic restrictions on certain websites like Netflix that will often limit movies or TV shows like one of my favorites, The Office, and they do that based on your region, meaning that when you change your region, you get access to additional content you might not otherwise see. PIA also gets you around website geo restrictions. For example, Canadians now can't access Facebook News and Google News due to the controversial BC18 bill, but with PIA, they can. And what I like most about Private Internet Access is that they are the world's most transparent VPN provider. With over 30 million downloads and a no logs policy means they never record or store user data. All this has been verified by a third-party audit from Deloitte and successfully defended in court in litigation. And now, Private Internet Access allows you to protect all your devices with just one subscription so you can protect your whole household in one go. Super simple. So let's get you a VPN from Private Internet Access. Go to www.piavpn.com/Robert and you'll get 83% off and 4 months free when you sign up for a 2-year plan. Be sure to use my link for a major discount on this initial offer, and my friends, we'll see you at piavpn.com/Robert. All right, so check them out. Private Internet Access, good stuff over there, and thanks for supporting the people who support our show here by getting your VPN from them. We also want to remind you about our website and where we'll be going over maybe for our after party today. We're trying to figure out what our technology situation looks like. But robertgovea.com. If you like any of the PDFs that we go through here on the show, you can get them at robertgovea.com. We also have our members only forum, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and we'd love to see you become a member and join us for all the fun stuff that we do over there. All right, and so without any further ado, let's get right into it, because we've got some serious heavy lifting today. We've got SCOTUS, man. Ooh, this is exciting. You know how much we love SCOTUS. Jack Smith, special counsel prosecuting Trump, is a little bit nervous. You can feel the panic in his bones as he submits his petition to the Supreme Court. Why is he going to the Supreme Court right now, you might wonder? Because he's already got an appeal that's on appeal at the lower level court. He's trying to leapfrog them. He's trying to jump over the Court of Appeals because he is in a hurry. They really want to prosecute Trump. We know that the trial on the January 6th case is already scheduled for March 4th, the day before Super Tuesday on March 5th. And they want to keep that trial date because that's going to be when they can convict Trump. And they've got a limited time to do that. They need to be able to come out after that, which might be a 6-week trial, and say Trump has been convicted so that they can use that in the election. And if they postpone it, man, if they have to bump this thing, they're not going to want to bump it later in on the year, closer to the election. So they might have the 2025, and that means they lose everything they're working for. So they are filing quickly and asking the Supreme Court, please, please, please respond, even though it's not really supposed to be there. And we'll see what the Supreme Court says about it. We'll go through the filing, then we'll see how MSNBC is talking about why this is a smart move, why I think this is not a smart move, why I think this is really them being boxed in, trying to get something done before the clock runs out. This is the filing. Jack Smith taking it to the Supreme Court of the United States. And this is the Super Bowl, my friends. This is where we want to be. We've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for Trump to get us here, but Jack Smith is taking us here right away. And the issue here is about presidential immunity. And if Trump is successful here, the charges are going to go away. They're like gone. And so depending on how this goes, it could be the end of the case, or it could be Trump continues to be prosecuted. But what's curious is Jack is going quickly. Now, as a quick side note, I thought Jack Smith had all these issues settled. I don't know why he's appealing this. I thought that he knew that presidential immunity was not something that Trump could legitimately claim, and that this was all settled. This was just an ordinary case. No one's above the law. They kept screaming at us. Remember that? No one's above the law. No one's above the law. Now he's asking the Supreme Court, excuse me, hey, Supreme Court up there, is Trump above the law? I think he might be. Idiots. That's why you should have figured this out, or maybe not charge him in the first place. But now we're here, and Jack Smith is a little bit nervous. You see, the United States of America is the petitioner out of SCOTUS versus Donald Trump on petition for a writ of certiorari before judgment. See that? Before judgment. They're currently in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals on this issue. And Trump took it. Now they're saying, we got to go faster. All right, if we can't get this done, then Trump might have an opportunity to postpone really what we don't want. But as we go through this, let's ask ourselves, what is the urgency here? Okay, what does Jack Smith fear if this is not settled in the ordinary course of business? Okay, many other trials take a long time, especially when they involve what they claim to be the most sophisticated and extensive investigation in Justice Department history, which is like laughable, by the way. Because what if they prosecuted about 1,200 people, which is a joke. It's like a Super Bowl weekend or something like that. Okay, it produces way more crimes than that. So it's basically insane. But these people are now at the Supreme Court, and they're going to be asking for clarification on this. And it's going to be dispositive. We've been waiting for this. We can't wait to see what SCOTUS does. But what if SCOTUS doesn't do anything? What if SCOTUS tells Jack Smith, it's not ready yet. Go back through the Court of Appeals, and then we'll see you later. That means that everything gets stayed. Trial's probably going to get postponed. So we've got a lot of different permutations that we can unpack here. Here is the question that Jack Smith is asking of the Supreme Court, which is wild because I thought this was already figured out because no one's above the law. Here's the question: is and whether a former president, whether he is absolutely immune from federal prosecution for crimes committed while in office, or is constitutionally protected from federal prosecution if he has been impeached but not convicted before the criminal proceedings begin. And those are two very nice, very juicy questions. And we are very excited to unpack. And we've already gone through several of these issues. Okay, one is Trump is immune literally, just by virtue of the fact that he is the president executing the laws. And so there's just immunity that you get, for example, you are a police officer, executing the laws, you arrest somebody, they get injured, they sue you, they say you should have arrested me so hard, and then you claim qualified immunity. Hey, I'm immune from that lawsuit because I was doing my job, it was an excessive force, blah, 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 whatever crap they say. So that is the framework, right? The president, by virtue of the fact that he is executing the laws. In this case, Trump is legitimately arguing that the election was rigged and he is the executor of the country. That's at that moment on January 6th. He's got a duty to make sure that the elections are not rigged. And if he's got the opinion to take on this rigged, the elections are rigged, he's got an obligation to get that done. And to go and say, hey, Mike Pence, there's something wrong with you. And people are looking at the election and why he was just foul. So that's point number one. But then then point number two, which is a separate, it is a related issue, because they would, either one of these, if the answer is yes, go, case is gone. Is Trump absolutely immune? SCOTUS comes out and say 6-3, yeah, he is. Case is over. They lose. Now think about that also. Okay, this would be a very good out. I know that this case is going to take 2 months to get through this document. Pick it up in the case here. But think about that. Now, what if Jack Smith, and these people know that this case has been botched from the beginning, that it should have never been brought? They were hoping that the prosecutions would cause Americans to rally against Trump, and they failed. Right? They've actually made him a martyr, and so now they want to say, uh-oh, we've kind of bitten off more than we can chew here. What if they can pitch this on SCOTUS? They can just blame it back over to SCOTUS. Say, oh, we tried to prosecute an insurrectionist, but SCOTUS came back out and said Trump's immune from prosecution. Right? Then they make the Supreme Court the most bad guy. And they say, see, this is why you got to rally back over to our side and support us in packing the court, and Joe Biden needs to win otherwise. Supreme Court in cahoots with Trump, we're going to seize power in American democracy. So you can see how this can ping pong both ways, right? The court would take it away from them. And this is the reason why I get nervous about the court. It's because the court doesn't like to do that. And the court doesn't really like to step on the toes of the executive branch. We saw that when John Roberts led us through the Obamacare problem. We were all sitting here like, there's no way this is going to pass. It's constitutionally insane. And then Roberts came out and was like, aha, we're going to call it a tax. What? Where'd that come from? John? But they did it. And so we're asking ourselves the same question. Is the judiciary going to step on the toes of the executive? Or are they going to leave some discretion to them? Are they going to do something crafty and fancy and say, like, well, Trump was his speech at the Capitol was outside of the presidency, but some of the other things were inside the presidency. Right? You see how this can get spliced many ways. But what if Jack Smith, this case is going to be botched, not in the courts necessarily by the jurors, right? Trump will be absolutely convicted if the trial goes. And if it's given to a jury, right? No doubt. It's DC. But the law is on his side because they're the ones who shattered all the precedent and were trying to criminalize speech and even were shattering due process and even discovery in this prosecution. So great questions. The surprising thing is that Jack Smith is asking this, right? These were questions that I thought Trump was going to bring up. But he is leading it because they are panicked. They need to get these answered immediately. So those are the consequences that I foresee. Now let's dive into it. Fast forward through the materials. And here is the petition. They say right here on petition before the judgment on appeal from the DC Court of Appeals. They say the special counsel Jack Smith and his deranged thugs over there are hereby submitting this on behalf of our youth government and respectfully petitioning for a writ of certiorari for judgment before the lower court has even had a chance to apply on this, which is unusual. Saying to the United States Court of Appeals up to you. Now, the opinion and order of the district court is not yet reported, but you can look it up if you want to. They say the judgment of Chupkin was entered, and then the jurisdiction of this court is invoked as follows. They say, now, Your Honors, at the Supreme Court, this is Jack Smith and his team right now. See, all right, Supremes, this case presents a fundamental question at the heart of our democracy. Whether a former president is absolutely immune from federal prosecution for crimes committed while in office, or is constitutionally protected from federal prosecution when he has been impeached but not convicted for the criminal proceeding. And we've talked about this, right? Trump was impeached in the House of Representatives but not convicted in the Senate. This is the second time absolutely for the January 6th case, right? That's the subject of the second impeachment, which mirrors this same charge. So if Trump was essentially acquitted, this is double jeopardy charging him again in the criminal court if the Constitution requires a conviction in the Senate before you can go down this road. Saying the district court, Jack Smith writes, the district court rejected Trump's claims, correctly recognizing that former presidents named Trump are not above the law, and they're accountable for their violations of federal criminal law while in office. Now, Trump and his appeal of the ruling, he appealed the ruling, rejecting claims of his immunity, and the trial is scheduled to begin. Now, what's curious about this, here, look at this. Trump's appeal of the ruling, rejecting his immunity and his other related claims, however, suspends the trial of the charges against him. Oh, no. That sounds like Jack Smith is acknowledging that that trial is suspended. Man, they're getting so mad over there. They are mad about that. They have been trying so hard to make this thing rigged so that it happens on the day before Super Tuesday. But Trump, just by virtue of appealing, Jack says, it's suspended. So then he says, it is of imperative public importance that respondents' claims of immunity be resolved by this court, the Supreme Court, and that Trump's trial proceed as promptly as possible if his claim of immunity is rejected. I really hope that they explain why this is so necessary for us. Is it for the country? I mean, the country needs to know the outcome of this case before we can vote in November. Like, why can't you just wait until after the fact, Jack? Is it because of the election? Like, I know it's because of the election. I'm willing to admit that. Are you? Let's see. Respondents' claims, Trump's claims, he says, are profoundly mistaken, as Judge Chutkan already held. So, puts some faith in that one. But only this court, Supreme Court, can definitively resolve Trump's questions. And so, this court should grant this case before judgment, before it's even really supposed to be here, so that it can provide the expeditious resolution that this case warrants, just as we've done before. They say, all right, Supreme Court, let me give you some background here. They say Trump served as president, as we know, January 2017 to 2021, pretty good years. The indictment alleges that Trump engaged in systematic and deliberate effort to overturn the election results of 2020 and blah, blah, blah. Now, on August 1st, we know, okay, August 1st, just think about how short this case is, by the way. Trial in March. What? A federal, for 13 million pages of documents and all the January 6th stuff? They're still releasing video footage. So a federal grand jury, they say in August, charged Trump with the various counts. Count 1 charges conspiracy to defraud the United States and alleges that he, seeking to re-elect himself, conspired, among others, to overturn the legitimate results of the election. Blah, blah, blah. Leverage DOJ state officials, we know the charges, and then attempted to obstruct the Capitol. Now, the district court scheduled trial to begin on March 4th, 2024, coming up the day before Super Tuesday, and they have already sent out notices to jurors that we cover here. But they're asking prospective jurors to also complete their questionnaires on February 9th, right? That's like right around the corner. We're going to be there any minute. And all of this is in the lead up to March 4th. And so Donald Trump then, after all of this started, we're basically, the trial's scheduled already. Like, we already picked out the curtains for it. Says respondent to, and then Trump moved to dismiss the indictment on the grounds that he enjoys absolute immunity because he was executing the duties of America, like not having our elections right. Saying that he is immune from criminal persecution and prosecution for anything that's taken in the outer perimeter of his official duties. He also argued you can't prosecute me twice, double jeopardy prohibits that, and the Senate already gave me my trial on this. And I was acquitted, so you can't do it again. Now, Jack Smith and his deranged thugs there, they said that Trump has no absolute immunity from federal criminal prosecution. They said even if such immunity existed, it would be narrower than the outer perimeter test. You can actually prosecute him for the things that he did, saying that the presidential immunity is different from civil liability, saying that even if that standard applied, this is Jack Smith, the indictment should not be dismissed because it's not in the outer perimeter, it's absolutely criminal, and it's also outside of the double jeopardy argument because they say that the Constitution doesn't matter as usual. But the district court denied, this is Judge Chutkan, denied Trump's claims, both of them, the double jeopardy claim and the immunity claim, which are two separate and distinct entities, and the court concluded that the Constitution's text and structure and history support the conclusion, and we read through this opinion from the judge. I think it was the one where she said there's no historical text that supports Trump's claim. And then we scrolled up literally to the page before that, where she cited Alexander Hamilton, who said exactly what we interpreted. So strange behavior. It's her courtroom, so I guess she can do whatever she wants. History support the conclusion, she says, that Trump may be subject to investigation, indictment, prosecution, and conviction for any criminal acts undertaken while in office. Now, although the Constitution's text does not address presidential immunity, which you would just infer then, why does everybody else get governmental immunity except the president? The court observed that silence did not reflect an understanding that Trump possessed immunity. Instead, in opposite, the court explained that the constitutional provision that Trump invoked, the impeachment judgment clause, cut against his immunity argument. She said that the Constitution says that he should be prosecuted. She said that the first part of the clause limits the penalties of impeachment to removal and disqualification from office, and that the second part then says that, quote, party convicted may then later face criminal prosecution, but that any further punishment may not come from the legislature. So she basically says it goes down two different tracks, and you can basically follow both of them. And only Congress can remove you and disqualify you, but only the other systems can criminally prosecute you. So that's how we distinguish it. Which is what we have said, is that you have to go through, it's like an indictment process, or it's like a safety valve. You have to be indicted in Congress. You have to be convicted in Congress, in the political realm, in the jurisdiction of the political world, before you can be removed out of there and then prosecuted in the non-political world. And the reason for that is so that we have a separation between the two, so you don't have partisan prosecutor hacks like Tishy and Fannie and Jack Smith doing what they're doing. You got to go through Congress first, unless you can have these democracy people, trying to undermine it, attack it. So Jack Smith continues. Now, the district court, Judge Chepton, said that there were several features of the impeachment judgment clause that undercut Trump's claims. First, she changed the word, or interpreted the word, nevertheless. She says it doesn't bear on anything about whether they're subject to criminal prosecution. And she also said materials like those from Alexander Hamilton did not reflect the view that there was widespread consensus about the nature of that phrase, which Alexander Hamilton was a pretty important figure back at the time. Now, third, she said that Trump's interpretation of the impeachment judgment clause relied on a negative implication that a president who is not convicted in impeachment cannot face criminal prosecution. And that reflected neither logic nor common sense. Now, well, not for his presidential conduct. That's what we're talking about. Okay, if the president goes and gets a DUI or something like that, right? It's a separate concept. Like, he's being prosecuted for his presidential conduct. Now, finally, they say respondents' interpretation would produce that there would be an anomaly that a former president would be immune if he committed a crime that was not covered. And so she read the rules and said this could lead to an insane conclusion, and therefore we can't hold the rules work that way. Now, summarizing, they say that the district court also found nothing in the history to justify absolute immunity, and the court discerned no evidence that the founders understood the Constitution to give that immunity. And here in sum, they say, check it, concluded exactly the way we want, and so we think that you should find similarly. So here is what they're asking for from the Supreme Court. Telling us, a cornerstone of our constitutional order that these people upended is this stupid phrase that they cannot get enough of. I think they probably have it written on their mirrors in the morning. Jack Smith says this every morning. No one's above the law, Jack. No one's above the law. They say no person is above the law, which is such a stupid phrase because the president literally is. And I don't know how many times I can say it on a broken record here. like literally, somebody gets convicted of a crime through the regular order. They say, you're guilty. You did something very bad. Jury of your peers convicts you. The president like this, go like this, watch this. Pardon. Done. Gone. Doesn't count. Literally above that law. You're gone. Sorry. Doesn't matter. Right? And there's debate about whether the president can do it himself. So it literally is not that, right? And if you don't want to use that example, you can also use the opinion clause example, which I think also says that he's above the law. Commander-in-chief, right? The laws say all these things. He just says, I'm doing this, right? He's the root of the Constitution. So it's a real stupid thing for them to say, but they keep saying it. Now they say the four, and like they're literally asking, excuse me, in this request, is Trump above the law? Like they're asking that in this very filing. I'm going to use this stupid sentence. Asking. Does Trump have presidential immunity, making him above the law in our hack partisan prosecution? And then they say, no person's above the law. Okay. Now, it's not really a cornerstone then if you have to ask about it, is it? So the force of that principle is at its zenith, whereas here, a grand jury that nobody cares about out of Washington, D.C., has accused a former president of committing federal crimes. This is a hack grand jury out of D.C. The reason why we don't allow that to happen is so that it goes through Congress. Because if it's going to be politicized, we want to make sure Congress can vet it first. And they did. And guess what? He wasn't convicted. Jack. So they say to subvert the peaceful transfer of power to his lawfully elected successor. Which we're debating that now. Yeah, a lot of people are. Saying that nothing could be more vital to our democracy than that a president who abuses the electoral system by trying to make sure it's fair is to remain in office and held accountable for his criminal conduct. That Trump has asserted that the Constitution accords him absolute immunity from prosecution. And the Constitution's text, structure, and history do not support that novel claim. Well, why are you asking about it? The court has accorded, and why are you asking about it, Jack? Okay, Trump can make that claim, but you have some doubts, don't you? That's why you're asking. So the court has accorded civil immunity to the president in the case of Nixon versus Fitzgerald, but they held that the view that a sitting president cannot be indicted while in office. But those principles can't be extended to Trump. The separation of powers, nor his acquittal in impeachment lifts him above the reach of federal criminal law. And like other citizens, he is accountable for criminal conduct. And again, right, like I said, like if Trump ran out and got a DUI today, yeah, like he doesn't have presidential immunity from that. Hello. But that's not what we're talking about. He was doing conduct that was within the presidency, which is executing federal elections, and he had an opinion about it that he's entitled to, and I think he's been vindicated on. So, all right, so this is overbroad. Nobody's saying that he can go out and do criminal things and then just claim presidential immunity, like a get out of jail free card. It's ridiculous. So they say, all right, Jack Smith continues. The district court presiding over this case, this is Chuckin, all right? So every time they say that, just insert Chuckin in there, okay? It makes it feel a lot less, powerful. Judge Chuckin, okay. Now, she rejected Trump's arguments, okay? Great, that's why he's appealing them to the Court of Appeals. And his notice of appeal, however, oh man, they are so mad about this. Trump's notice of appeal, however, suspends trial proceedings.
All right, guys. If anyone's here, thanks for hot rodding with me.
And they're referencing Trump's case, which is the case that